Well, we have some breaking news right here on Denver 7 News at 11. We now know at least 7 people have died from the effects of Ian across Florida as we take a live look at Orlando this morning, where the rain is still falling and only a handful of cars you see on the roadways that you can barely make out downtown in the distance. Ian was downgraded to a tropical storm overnight, but it is lashing the east coast of Florida right now with strong winds and heavy rain. And it isn't done yet as it turns up the coast. One of the more striking images from this morning is the force of landfall it made as a Category 4 hurricane on the west coast of Florida yesterday, taking out parts of a bridge that connect Fort Myers with Sanibel Island, a heavily traveled bridge, and it is submerged underwater in parts. The bridges are inspected every year to make sure they're safe from storms, but it was no match for the 150-mile-an-hour winds that pummeled the coastline. Many areas are still flooded.
The amount of water that's been rising and will likely continue to rise today, even as the storm is passing, is basically a 500-year flood event.
So as we mentioned today, Tropical Storm Ian is expected to make a second U.S. landfall close to the Carolina coast as it turns up the Atlantic seaboard, possibly regaining strength as a hurricane. ABC's Justin Finch reports from Tampa.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announcing today search and rescue efforts are now underway in storm-ravaged areas. Many survivors spending hours on their rooftops and attics to escape the rising waters. Ian making history as one of the most powerful hurricanes to ever make landfall in Florida, decimating parts of the state.
This storm is having broad impacts across the state, and some of the flooding you're going to see in areas hundreds of miles from where this made landfall are going to set records.
2.5 million Floridians told to evacuate, but some who chose to stay had to be rescued by first responders. High water levels prompting drastic rescue calls in Lee County.
Caller reporting a sinking vehicle, unknown if he's breathing, caller disconnected.
Many still waiting for help.
We have thousands of calls on 911 that are prioritized, and we're answering as we speak. There are thousands of people that are waiting to be rescued.
ABC's Ginger Z facing the eye wall.
We see these winds, and that little house that we were talking about all day has gone, succumbed to the storm surge. Now the blue roof is all that's left floating in the water toward the building.
Fort Myers flooded with up to a 12-foot storm surge, shredding structures to pieces, debris floating in the streets, cars submerged. This floating debris was once someone's house. In Naples, Kimberly Walker telling ABC about the moments water began to seep into her home.
The water got to be a lot more and a lot more and a lot more. And it was just, it didn't matter what you did. The water started coming into my home, reaching about mid-thigh. I knew I had to get out.
In the city of Punta Gorda, water service is out. A boil water advisory in effect until further notice. And power has been restored to more than 1 million customers. Next, portable cell phone towers will go up across Southwest Florida once it's deemed safe to do so. Justin Finch, ABC News, Tampa.
And here's a look at why some of that power is restored. Utility workers from Xcel sent a large team to Florida to help restore power to the more than 2 million people who lost electricity overnight. There's the staging area for all the trucks. This is from Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg as a staging area there, and they left to help with the cleanup process. 270 workers are on their way, including some from Colorado and New Mexico. Again, more than 2 million people in Florida are still in the dark. Many of the dangers cannot be seen as well until the water recedes, so life is very difficult across Florida right now. Denver 7 meteorologist Stacey Donaldson continues our coverage of Tropical Storm Ian now. But Stacey, the big question is, as it heads out into that warm ocean water again, where is it headed next?
Well, it's headed north, and that's what's interesting about this storm. It looks like it'll make double landfall, the one we saw yesterday, and then another one expected up into South Carolina. So it has held together enough that it's still a tropical storm, even though it made its way all the way across the Florida peninsula. Now that it's over warm water once again, as long as this center stays out over the warm water, it's going to continue to strengthen and circulate and bring all that heavy rain here up along the coastline as it makes its way northward. So that track pushes pushing all the way up toward Charleston. As we get into Friday morning, that's when we're expecting that second landfall. And winds right now are at 70 miles an hour, but it only needs to get up to 74 miles an hour to be categorized a Category 1 storm. So as for now, we have tropical storm warnings all the way along the coastline here in effect until Sunday. So we'll be watching this for many days to come as the damage continues to move northward.
Yeah, so many millions still in harm's way. We do have some breaking news here locally this morning. Erie police are asking people to come forward with more information about a possible attempted abduction from last Thursday. And we're showing you this vehicle because this photo was taken by a girl who said the people inside tried to get her to go with them. The 9-year-old ran away and was able to get to her dad, who followed the vehicle and called police, but they got away. The vehicle is a white Honda Civic. It is missing its front bumper. Tribal and environmental groups are taking a case to federal court here in Denver today. They are pushing back against big oil companies that want to drill on their land. Denver 7's Jessica Crawford explains why they're pushing back.
The Greater Chaco region makes up nearly 8,000 square miles of New Mexico, and it's home to thousands of Native American families. It's also home to traditions and cultures, and that's why they do not want unchecked oil and gas drilling to continue in the area. And that's why they came to this courthouse today to make their voices heard. Tribal and environmental groups took their arguments to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit here in Denver today at 8:30 this morning. They called for the court to reverse the approval of 370 Trump-era oil and gas fracking permits in the Greater Chaco region. They also claim they're not getting help from the Biden administration, which they say is defending the permit approvals in court. Tribal groups say oil and gas extraction has encroached on sacred sites and the Chaco Culture National Historical Park. They add that it creates pollution, contaminates water, and threatens public health. Some communities say there's too much truck traffic now and that it's tearing up the roads, damaging infrastructure and hurting livestock. The bottom line here is they're arguing that it's illegal. They say that the 10th Circuit previously ruled that drilling permit approvals in the region were not allowed. So what took place today was a hearing and no decisions were made today. However, they are hoping for change in the future as this issue continues to make its way through the court process. In Denver, I'm Jessica Crawford, Denver 7.
2 men will spend the rest of their life in prison for killing 2 other men outside an RTD bus stop last year. Elias Chavez and Tlaloc Chavez both received consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole in the deaths of D'Angelo Tafoya and David Lara. They were shot and killed waiting on a bus at Federal and Alameda in April of last year. Tafoya's family says they've been waiting for justice for almost a year and a half now.
My son's not here, to speak on his behalf, but I'm his voice. I'm his mom, and I'll always be here to keep his memory alive, and we finally got justice. That's all that matters.
Both men will have the option to appeal their case within 45 days. 2 Colorado Youth Soccer Club employees are now behind bars, arrested just weeks apart, but for the same crime. Arapahoe County Sheriff's deputies first arrested 63-year-old Howard Bud Harper on August 10th, accusing him of sharing child pornography on the messaging app Kik. At the time, he was an age coordinator for Real Colorado Soccer Club and had also worked as a coach there. Deputies have now arrested another employee from the same soccer club, 54-year-old Alberto Lemus Viers. He's accused of sharing child porn on Facebook. In both cases, the deputy sheriff says the content did not contain any soccer club players. Despite both men working for the same soccer club, Sheriff Bartman says it is just a coincidence. A spokesperson for Real Colorado told Denver 7 the men's arrest had nothing to do with its program, but both are suspended. Again, right now, investigators don't believe any soccer club members were involved. But if you are a victim or if you know someone who is, contact the sheriff's office at the number at the bottom of your screen. Have you received your state election guide in the mail yet? Because there is a lot to it, and we are learning that there is a paper shortage driving up the cost of the guides and mail-in ballots and other voting material this year. Departments are working to get around to those issues, but printing ballots and guides early, Arapahoe County's election clerk says the price of envelopes is even up 13%. The little I voted stickers are up 22%. And at the Denver election office, the costs are soaring as ballots get longer.
In 2020, we were looking at $800,000 to print all the ballots for the city and county of Denver. This year, we're well over $1 million.
Election officials say people shouldn't notice a difference this year, but supply chain experts say they will need to plan for a bigger budget in the future. Here are some important dates to keep in mind as the election draws closer. Ballots will be mailed to voters starting Monday, October 17th. Election day, of course, is Tuesday, November 8th. You can register to vote or update your registration at govotecolorado.gov. Families in Thornton are getting a new K-8 magnet school. The 27J School District is breaking ground today on a new science-focused school. It'll be in the Willow Bend neighborhood, and it is scheduled to open next fall. If you drive in downtown Denver, you need to know about a major road closure. Larimer Street is closing at the 16th Street Mall as early as today. So if you drive Larimer between 15th and 17th, you will be forced to make a U-turn at 16th. That means the road will be two-way traffic instead of one-way just in that small stretch between 15th and 17th for people making those U-turns. The Larimer closure will last about a month. You can still get to the parking structures, you just can't cross 16th. This is all because of the reconstruction project going along the 16th Street Mall. Ski season is right around the corner. The new technology that some resorts are using to scan your lift ticket. And retiring at a time of high inflation, what financial advisors say you should do before you make your big move.